All right, Bang Bang. Today is Thursday. It's December 9th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Chief, Dante. All right, we left off last week saying we were going to do Von Dutch this week.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
You okay?
Yeah, how are you?
It was a little low energy off the top there.
Well, I mean, I was sad about the story.
Okay.
It doesn't have a happy ending.
Appropriate, I guess.
It does not have
Tone.
a happy ending.
Depends who you're looking at it from.
There's a lot going on.
Listen,
What do you mean?
If you're Mike Cassell, kind of...
The guy who was smoking crack rocks the whole time in a trailer?
I
don't know if it ended well for him.
I got the feeling that he was kind of one of those guys that was like, they all got what they deserved. Like, he got fucked out of everything, so he was happy how
Well, yeah, I mean...
the ship went down.
Well, why don't we go through the process?
Yeah, so the first episode I watched last week, so I don't even... And that was maybe the worst one in my opinion, because they kind of just strung everything together.
Yeah.
I thought.
It was the very beginning, deep history.
Yeah, and they just threw 4 people at you so fast that you're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
The 4 founders, the 4 guys who invented and created Von Dutch. To this day, there's a bunch of people who just go around claiming that they're the guy.
Yeah, it's
Which
crazy.
I love.
It's crazy.
Well, we talked about it on the last episode. I thought the intro was great. They introduced these people. They didn't tell you who the fuck they were. They gave a little background, and then they were like, I'm the originator of Von Dutch.
I know.
Each one said the same thing.
Yeah.
It really was funny. So then you get into the second one, and the second one is primarily about Bobby, right?
Yeah.
And his whole saga with Tony, and then Mike
Mark
is the other guy.
Mark Rivas.
I don't even know how to go about this. There's so many things.
Okay, so we should probably just describe who Tony was, because he was in both episodes, and he is a guy who took this Von Dutch brand that was like cool, but they were not blowing up. They were not they were hemorrhaging money.
They didn't know how to run a business.
They had no idea. They just had something that was cool and had no idea how to run a business. Tony is a guy from Denmark who was a champion. Was it Taekwondo karate master who came over to the United States after winning like the heavyweight world championship of Taekwondo and was like, I'm gonna make it in fucking Hollywood. And he like referenced like it didn't seem that far fetched. He's this tall, like handsome, like Dolph Lundgren looking guy. He could have been Dolph. He could have been Schwarzenegger or Van Damme, or like he was like envisioning himself being the next guy of that. And never really made it, was in like some shitty movies. And then he like they don't really talk about
He was in like Skinamax movies.
That's what it looks like without any of like the skin showing from those clips. But yeah, like shitty movies like that. And then he said like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm not going to make it. He started looking for his next thing, but he had all this money. And they didn't get into how his wife made all this money, but he like married wealthy to this Brazilian woman. So he had all the toys, and he had this cash at his disposal, and he gets hooked up with Von Dutch, and he buys in and becomes a CEO, and he brings in like a buddy, and he just like legitimizes the entire business. Like they have a marketing guy, they have a guy, a designer who was not Mike Cassell, who was one of the originators.
Hold on, we got to get to Christian.
Okay, he's the next guy, the French guy.
Oh, who's the designer that you're talking about?
Christian, the French guy.
Oh, all right.
Yeah,
all right,
yeah.
all right.
So he was like this denim guy, and they bring him in, and that is when the brand took off from being this smaller ragtag, some shitty factory, stitching it handmade, and became like the brand that all the celebrities had and the one that we remember from.
And then in the process, he squeezed out the other owners.
But what blasted them off was the trucker hats. So they were like literally down to their last
They said
dollar.
that they had lost, it's a clothing brand, they had lost almost $700,000 in a year.
Yeah, and they were in the hole big time, and Tony tells the story. Of course, there's like 4 different versions of this. Mike, one of the originators,
Mike Cassell,
was like, I started the trucker hats, and it just took him a while to catch on. And then Tony tells a story where they're sitting in the design room, and they have this leftover fabric. They're down to their last few dollars, everyone's ready to throw in the towel, and he's like, what if we use this for trucker hats? They do it. They put them on sale. He comes back the next day. They're all sold out. And he's like, we're going to start selling these for like $49 and $85.
$89 for leather.
And then that took the company to a whole different level.
Because it became like a high end. They just like threw a price out there to make it high end, and people bought in.
That's all I remember, by the way. Like, I don't really remember the clothes at all, besides the hat.
I just remember everyone in Hollywood rocking it. Like, they showed those clips, like all these stars. And that Tracy Mills guy was the man.
Yeah.
Oh,
like
yeah,
Chris
yeah,
Mills' brother.
Right.
Yeah.
Who would just, he was connected to all these celebs, and he would just bring them to the store.
And like the celebs are Jay-Z, Whitney Houston. Who else was on that list?
Oh, my God.
They had Beyonce,
Everybody.
Britney Spears.
Everybody.
They had fucking everybody.
Literally everybody.
And then our girl.
Vin Diesel. Like,
Yeah, Vin Diesel was wearing it in Fast and Furious. Like, it was like, man, the 2000s were a fucking wild time.
They were like, I mean, how prevalent was that? Like, because that's like the new influencer. You know how they paid all those fucking chicks to market Fyre Fest? Like, that was the original, like, hey, we could just give all the fucking cool people in the world to wear our shit.
Right.
And that's
the
how we're
line
going
will
to fucking
be around
market.
the block.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they were the first to do that. So maybe there's a better example that someone's going to be like, oh, this thing, you idiot. But that's the first I've known. That was in the early
that
2000s.
was like an interesting thing because it's impossible not to compare and contrast then and back now. And I can't remember who said it. It might have been Tony, but it was like, back then, celebrities were like not accessible. You had them in like Us Weekly, People Magazine, E, the cable channel E, and like that was kind of it. And then so it's like I got to get what the celebrities were. Now it's like Twitter, Facebook, Cameo, like celebrities are fucking everywhere, and they've kind of devalued.
and they're being like bought off and paid, and
they're not just wearing it because they like it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like back then, you'd see, like Britney Spears had the hat on, and every girl was like, "Oh my god, I need to get that hat, get those jeans."
That's a good point too, though, because do you remember that to me was like a big initiative and a big like difference for Twitter. Like it was like, hey, like you could actually see what Justin Bieber's up to in real time, and who knows, maybe he'll tweet you back.
Like the one from Trent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was like the first time where people
could
actually
have an interaction or say something to a celebrity.
Yeah, so it was like completely in the dark before. You just bought all their shit and you just stared at them.
Yeah, exactly. They were monkeys in a zoo.
Yeah.
Like that's all. That's basically what celebrity culture was. Now they're way more accessible, but you want it to be like those monkeys in the zoo. Mm-hmm. So if Britney is the monkey in the zoo and she's wearing Von Dutch, you better go get it. And that was like that. I don't remember because I was in high school when this brand was taken off, and I didn't know any of the story about the company. And I only, with you, I feel like I only remember the hat. And they showed the clip from that show with Paris Hilton and Nicole.
Simple Life.
Yeah. And you're like, yes. Like, I remember it that, but I never had the brand. I don't remember it being super prevalent in high school the way that other things were.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they only did hats. And then when they were showing
I was like, the shirts kind of look familiar, but the jeans, I was like, no.
Yeah, no. That was Christian's thing, right? So this Christian guy, he wanted to break through to America so bad, and once he finally got some,
they did.
Yeah,
they did. They showed the one graphic. They did 100. So to go from hemorrhaging money, and then they have this kind of collective. And who was the CMO's name? The woman.
I forgot.
Okay, so you had her, Christian, Tony, and the other Danish guy.
Nils. What was his role, by the way?
I don't know.
He was like a CFO, but
I like that guy though.
Yeah,
but I couldn't tell what his fucking role was.
Tony said I brought him in, and it was just good to have another Danish guy around. So I was like, all right. So, but I think
I like him even more now.
Yeah, he had a bigger title. He's like, I just wanted to crack some Danish jokes with this guy and have somebody get it. We can go about our day. It's like, all right. Mm-hmm. But that if we want to exclude Nils from that because we don't know what his role, but Tony, Christian, and the woman, I'm blanking on her name, that was the triumvirate that took it from this thing that was hemorrhaging money to a giant brand, global brand.
Hundreds of millions
of dollars, yeah.
So like everything, more money, more problems.
Yes, but to me, it was like, well, it shouldn't have been. Because he had the guy, the crazy guy.
There were two. I think there are two crazy guys.
Well, time out. If you really think about it, that guy, their stories have nothing to do with Von Dutch at the end of the day.
At all.
Like, that was just like...
Friend of a friend.
Yeah, it's like, hey, here's also what happened like,
at the same
these
time,
guys
yeah.
that also had a hand in founding Von Dutch.
Why am I blanking on... Not Mike Cassell.
Mark Rivas.
Yeah, there's a lot of like weird
murderer.
generic names where it's hard to get.
So this Mark Rivas guy was a childhood friend of this Bobby guy.
Bobby
Yes.
gave him a gun, and he shot a kid when they were teenagers, and then he fled the country to Mexico to hide out. Then he came back, but they knew he was wanted for murder, so he was like
had to turn himself in.
Yeah. So he went to prison, did some time, I guess, came out, and he was still a fucking lunatic.
Well, yeah. So I think that was the guy, Mark Rivas, and Bobby Vaughn was the guy I was trying to think of as the crazy guy that I referenced. So, but like Bobby Vaughn and Mike Cassell, like Bobby Vaughn to me, like his story is very compelling and crazy, but it's almost like you could have told the whole Von Dutch story and not even included him at all.
Yes,
Dude, I see. You guys think that?
Yes.
I think the opposite. I think that it started out, I thought he was the main character, and because of how he was involved in literally like the grassroots part of it, like Mike was just this stoner surfer who had a good eye for, what people would like, and Bobby was like, oh, I could start pushing this for you and getting people to wear it. And then he somehow, even when Tony came in, he still had equity. I mean, he got fucked out of his equity, but
he did not get fucked out of his equity.
Kind of, sort of.
Read the fucking contract, man. But
listen, he seemed fucking. He didn't seem smart, but he seemed normal in the beginning, and then at the end, it was like this guy's off the rails. Like
you guys hold on. You guys don't think he got? You guys both think he got fucked?
Oh, I think everyone got fucked.
I think manipulation is sure it's. I don't know what you want to call it then if it's not fucked, like dishonesty.
I think
misleading.
Well, again, I don't know, but it was a situation where you had this guy, Bobby Vaughn, running with this guy Mark, and they're a fucking problem because now Mark gets out of prison, but like he went into this, he did 5 years for murder because he got 7 years, they knocked off 2, whatever, but he got 5 years for murder because he was a juvenile.
Yeah,
and they talk about his prison experience, where it's like they basically had King of the Ring, and there's like steel cage matches where it's like kind of almost like a fight to the death. Like you're choking people out, you're hitting people with metal, like steel bars and shit. It sounded like, what the fuck is going on? Like,
yeah.
So that guy comes out and he gets back linked up with Bobby, and they go down a dark path. But Bobby, to me, like he has the kid, and they talked about his the mother of his kid, and she was in the documentary too, being like, well, I had to leave because I wasn't a fit parent because I was smoking meth in the other room. It's like, yeah. And then Bobby was being a gangbanger, and then it's like Bobby needed money, and this is before things had really started popping off for the brand. So they signed him to this contract for $10,000, which obviously you got hosed on that. But like to me, it's just like, you're an adult. Read the contract, take it to a lawyer. Like if you sign your name on something and then violate the contract so they can remove you because you're selling denim, which you're not allowed to do, I'm sorry. Like at some point, like you have to be responsible for your own actions. And he fucked himself.
And listen, I know it sounds like based on what we were presenting in that doc, both of them had to go for Tony to make it a successful company.
Yes.
Like for it to make hundreds of millions.
You're talking about Mark and Bobby or Mike Cassell and Bobby?
Mike Cassell and Bobby.
I don't necessarily agree with Mike Cassell.
Really?
Yeah.
He was nuts.
Dude,
he wanted to keep it in the garage for years and years and be like, he was like, did you see the Venus and Serena movie yet?
No.
Oh, he was basically like Mr. fucking Williams, who's like, no, I don't want my daughters to play juniors yet.
You're right. He wanted the brand to be successful, but he was the biggest thing holding it back.
Yeah. And I think that's a real thing. Like
I agree, but I also feel like, and they kind of said this at the end, even Nils said it, where it's like if they had kept Mike Cassell, as almost like a bulwark against, I don't even know if that's a word if I use it correctly, but as like a stopgap against Christian, who was like putting in on like dog collars and like, you know, children's bathing suits and like all, like Von Dutch was fucking everywhere.
Dude, you know what I was cracking up at?
Oversaturated and it like killed the brand.
Do you remember those bags that were a thing?
I don't. I remember they showed them.
They were like the bowling bags.
Yes.
That all the, what were those called? They were like 4 bowling balls, but girls used to carry them around.
I know, like I remember.
They were like a huge thing in the 2000s. When they started showing those, I was like, oh my God, I forgot that trend.
I almost feel like that was in like Mean Girls too, like those bags.
Probably,
like those girls
probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, real quick though, I wish there was a way to do like a guerrilla marketing campaign with celebrities like they did with Roman swipes. Could you imagine if we can get people and be like, hey, here you go, Jay-Z?
I mean, if you had given it to Tommy Lee.
Yeah.
Swipe it on before he puts it to Pam.
Tommy Lee. Could you imagine if you just gave it a swipe before the old love tape and said, you know, get it at GetRoman.com/walk? We'd be fucking...
Roman wouldn't need us.
We'd be fucking in the business.
I actually saw a few Roman ads while I was watching this last night.
Did you?
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a great tie-in.
Yeah. There you go. Great tie-in. Roman swipes, you guys know, clinically proven, way to last longer in bed, effective, easy to use, fast acting. They don't require a prescription. They ship to you in discreet, unmarked packaging, and each swipe packet is small enough to hide in your wallet for whenever you need it. Very easy to use. Take the swipe out of the packet, swipe it on, let it dry. You're good to go. That's it. GetRoman.com/walk. You can get your first month of swipes for just $5 when you choose a monthly plan. That's GetRoman.com/walk. Go get your Roman swipes, people. Okay. Where were we at? So we were talking. Do you think Mike needed to could have stayed?
I think that they could have worked something out. Now he did come in there and like hire hitman and Pablo Escobar's grandson to try to like.
Okay, that threw me for a loop. Like that, they just threw that part in there and they didn't like mention. Like, how the fuck did he just know Escobar's nephew?
I was under the impression that it wasn't actually.
Yeah, there's no way.
Yeah,
couldn't have been, right?
Couldn't have been.
No, there's
but it was just like a guy, and like they dress up. They're trying to be intimidating, and it's like, here's, you know, what was it, 500,000,
$500,000.
Yeah. Well, it's like we just did 175 million in sales, so fuck off. But like
he's like, I think you should take this offer if you know what I mean.
Yeah, that was banana. So like, but he had already been kind of forced out at that point. I feel like there was probably a way, because he was the guy who was good at identifying what was cool. So if they could have if Tony was like a better leader, but it always felt like right from the get-go that everybody was like, no, I'm the top dog. Yep. If there had been a real top dog and he would have been like, hey, Christian, we think you're great. Hey, Mike Cassell, you're the founder. We think you're great. You guys have to figure out how to work together, and we could make this a dream team. And they said, like, if they had been able to figure it out and keep Mike Cassell in, the brand probably doesn't explode, but it might not crash either. Mm-hmm. And
that's the thing too. Like they were talking about that Christian guy getting caught in the fast lane and, you know, lavish birthday cakes and shit like that. Tony did too, and they didn't really fucking kind of point that spotlight at him.
See, well, they showed the one image of him though. Did you miss that
in the Borat suit?
Yeah. Yes, and that's what I mean. But they like
kind of gloss over. But like that was like the most incriminating picture. Yeah.
Like, but they just never. I don't know that was, and I think that's at the end of the day, that's what they did. They got caught. They
were flying too close to the sun. Yeah,
they're the definition of the old saying: "Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered."
So
1,000%.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the downfall and what caused that. Because the whole time I'm like, okay, why is this called the Curse of Von Dutch? And it really didn't get to that until the last 20 minutes.
Yeah,
and I thought that was the most remarkable part of the whole thing to me, because I sat there. I don't know if you guys sat there, and I was like, what the fuck was the point of the guy who was laying in the bed who the first scene was?
Yeah.
The fourth owner. I was like, when is this guy going to come back?
Yeah.
Something has to happen.
What was his name? Bill?
Ed. His name was Ed, yes.
Ed.
He was, he legitimately, it's like someone who, in a scary movie, who gets knocked out early, like, oh, that guy's he's not dead. He's going to come back later. He's going to get the killer and smack him.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, he's the fucking guy that aired the shit about.
He was like... If you want to talk about like who ultimately fucked everybody, that was him.
Yes.
You know, So that, and we're talking about, oh, like, could Vaughn Dutch have survived? First of all, if he was owed 1% and they're making $175 million in revenue and not doing that because he's like, I never got paid and that's why I did it. That happens all the fucking time. All the time. And if you've seen the movie War Dogs, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Same thing. They were running this giant illegal operation out of Albania, and they're making like hundreds of millions of dollars. Stupid money. And then they had this guy in Albania who was like giving them corrugated boxes for pennies, but they owed him probably $100,000. So they're making hundreds, and it's like they didn't pay him. So that guy calls the FBI, and they're fucked. So it's like you can't like just skip over details. Fuck that guy. We're not going to pay him his 1%. What's he doing here? Just fucking pay him. Like it's on like that. Ultimately, like if you have a contract with somebody, you have to just live up to the contract. Otherwise, nobody ever really gets away with anything. Agreed. You know. So it's just like
So explain what Ed ended up doing.
So Ed, he was like the original guy. From what I would...
Was he friends with the Vaughn Dutch guy? Because he spoke like on terms where they were very close.
I think he knew of him, but just like he was in that car, hot rod culture.
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing about this. I had no idea that Vaughn Dutch was an actual person. Turns out he was this designer from muscle car, hot rod
50s
era.
and 60s California.
It was called pinstriping. He used to design all this pinstriping stuff.
Yeah, so if you think of the movie Grease and like Grease Lightning and I can't remember what the rival gang's car was called, but they had all like the flares and flames and all the shit like designs on the cars. Like Vaughn Dutch was the guy who was doing that, and then he would take some of that art and put it on paintings and shirts.
Right.
And all
so he was this well-known within that garage.
Yeah, like almost like a folk hero, like cult figure, like very well known but small.
And Ed's claim was that he got the blessing from either him or his family to use his name, put it on patches, and he would take them to these like fashion fucking what do you call them?
Trade shows
and sell these patches, and people would put them on like garage jackets or hats or whatever like that.
So it's like he identified the cool, Mike Cassell identified the cool, but all those guys at the end of the day were fucking morons, and they had no idea how to grow the business. And Tony partnered with some smart people, Christian, and the woman. I wish I could remember her fucking name.
Try to look it up.
Look it up. I think she was
the actual brains.
Yes.
Yeah.
She was the only person watching this whole thing that I was like,
She's the only person still in fashion.
Yeah, and she's still doing well.
She's still crushing it. Yeah. And she was in like Forbes, like top 50 people, like, you know, whatever. So
what was her name, Ed?
Hold on, still looking. You keep going.
The thing that rubbed me the wrong way about Tony, and I don't, he seemed like a nice enough guy in this, but I just have a huge problem with people that come into things that are
Caroline Rotwell.
Okay.
All right. I mean, this happened with Uber and Travis Kalanick. Like these people that start these companies and build them up, and they let outside people in because they need the money, they need the cash like influx, and they end up, you know, either by a board vote or just by muscle getting pushed out of something they created. And I mean, dude, I would be just as pissed off as Mike Cassell. I would want fucking all those people dead.
But like, you also have to look at it from Tony's side. He's like, I've put $2 million into this business. Like,
it's a tale as old as time, man.
Yeah,
it's a tale as old. A lot of people, and honestly, like, that's one thing that I think like Shark Tank actually gave a lot of people, like, to realize. A lot of people have good ideas, but to actually make shit a business is not
so fucking hard.
It's a big difference.
Yeah,
it's a big difference.
Big time.
And so like I feel more for the guy, Tony, who put in $2 million
of his wife's money.
He could put that's capital loss. That's an opportunity cost. He could have put that money into something else. So like, he's taking all the risk, and this guy's fucking it up. And then he gave, like, the contracts matter. So if he goes to Mike Cassell and was like, I can't fucking work with you anymore. I've put in $2 million. I'll get out completely, but you have to pay me back the $2 million. And then, you know, that was like a moment in the doc where like Mike Cassell just didn't have the money because he didn't know how to handle money or leverage money. So he couldn't raise it. So he was out. So that was like the stipulation of their contract, like either pay me or like I'm buying you out or vice versa. And Cassell couldn't come up with any money. And it's like, hey, I owe my brother $260,000. Well, here, Tony, here you go. You know, so there's a lot of that going on. It's ultimately like they should have, to me, it's like Mike Cassell, like you're a shareholder, you're knocked down to 15, 20%. You're a creative director. You work with the guy Christian, and I'll run it, and everyone just shut the fuck up.
Like they could, like you said it earlier, they could have made this thing work if they just had someone sit everyone in a room and be like, listen,
right,
you're fucking the tastemaker. You handle the creative direction. Christian, only worry about design. I'm going to handle the finances. Caroline can handle, the relationships and the marketing and all that. And like,
same with the guy Mills.
Let's see, Christian was the one who it seemed like he fucked everything. How did he not have like an override or like a veto over him?
Because
that's what I don't understand.
It felt like
because he just kept getting, I didn't want to do kids. I didn't want to do this.
What started the downfall of all this thing in your eyes?
It was and you know what? Like you could say they went into this and that's why it got too big, but when stuff goes uncool inexplicably, like I don't know what else there is to say. Like it just got uncool.
It got oversaturated, and then the death nail was that letter leaked by Ed.
Yes.
Who was like, that guy that you're wearing his name all over all your shit. Big time Nazi. Here's a letter.
Yes.
And so he just had the biggest, when they brought that up, he just had the biggest shit eating grin on his face.
And then he cried.
Yeah,
He's like, I wish I didn't do it. Well, I would say yes. I would say, them getting a little too big for their britches, that dug the hole.
Yeah.
And then Ed completely just threw all the dirt right over him.
And it was like they just put it, like you said it perfectly, Ed. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. And they like that was the end of it. And that was the end of it. And I remember like watching the doc being like, I wonder if Von Dutch, like this doc, like this story is so wild. The Mark Rivas, the Bobby Vaughn, the Mike Cassell, the drugs, the women, all the celebrities. I wonder if because of this doc, Von Dutch will make a comeback. And then they like dropped the Nazi thing. I'm like, oh no.
It did though. You're aware of that, right?
What?
No, they did. They came back.
No, but I mean like in a big way.
But like, I mean, in 2016, Kylie Jenner was wearing it.
Really?
Like Travis Scott. This says Saweetie, Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh shit.
Young Thug. Like Addison Rae. Like that's why it's kind of like all these TikTokers are wearing it too, along with the Bass Pro.
Okay, so I didn't know that.
I don't know if it's not the same magazine.
Are they buying like vintage stuff, or is the company still producing stuff?
They have a website, and they
wow.
have,
I wonder if Tony sold that.
Yeah, he did. He said at the end he sold it to.
So Tony sold it to who?
The new executive director is Earl Pickens, whoever the fuck that is.
Okay.
Which he might be a big.
It might have changed hands like multiple times.
Yeah.
Like how do we revive this brand?
Ed Goldman is a general manager. So yeah, he sold it. Like,
yeah, because he said at one point like I wouldn't touch a fashion company with a 10-foot pole.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we should go back to the Bobby Vaughn, Mark Rivas whole story because like they were like best friends, roommates, but the Mark Rivas guy was still like PTSD, drugs, just completely fucked in the head. Tried to murder Bobby Vaughn like multiple times. Like hung him off a balcony according to Bobby Vaughn, had a gun in his mouth according to Bobby Vaughn. Like
stomped his head in that one time.
Yeah.
Dude,
and then he was always just like, yeah, come on.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And I know we say like that didn't have much to do with the whole Von Dutch story, but
to
make it all tie together and for entertainment viewing purposes, it was good.
Yeah.
Like it was a nice.
How about the time where Nils and Tony were in the car and Bobby comes screeching up in front of him in a pickup truck.
Oh yeah.
And is like parked next to him and he's like brandishing a handgun out the window. And Nils is like, oh my God, what the fuck is going on? Like we get like call the police. And Tony's just like, it's just Bobby. Like, oh well, he's threatening us with a fucking gun. That'll be fine.
Dude.
I love Bobby just casually dropping in that he was banging that playmate Nicole Narain
at the end,
who happened to be Colin Farrell's girlfriend for a while. Like rocket ship. that guy like didn't have a place to live.
But in the same thing, that Eli Jane girl looked familiar as fuck. I don't know if you guys thought so too. I was like, what's she in? I looked her up. She's in like she's not like anything like prominent, but she's like always like an extra in like Entourage and shit. Like
Really?
Yeah, but didn't she look super familiar?
Oh,
I thought so too.
She was on like Oprah as a kid, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Her and
they showed the pictures of her when they met. I was like,
yeah.
she was so hot.
So it looks like her. She was
another. She was like, yeah, I used to smoke meth with these guys. Like what?
Wow, this is tough for her. Listen to this. She was featured on an episode of the Oprah Winfrey Show, alongside Katherine Heigl, Usher, and Serena Williams about upcoming stars.
Ooh.
Like up and coming. Sorry.
Yikes.
That's tough.
That
for her.
doesn't.
I mean,
Yeah.
those are.
Well, she got in a documentary.
That's like
she might be more relevant than Katherine Heigl is.
That's like what's the American Idol host name that got bumped out by Seacrest?
Because there was both of them.
Yeah, I can't think of his name. That's like that poor guy.
Yeah, he was only on season 1. But yeah, it was just like so then Bobby kills in like a heated dispute, kills Mark Rivas. They go to trial and he like claims self-defense and wins, like gets off. And it's like, what the fuck? And so it's just like this whole like, how can a clothing line have like multiple murders, or a murder, multiple gun threats, multiple hitmen, like, oh yeah, I know a hitman, go threaten these guys, like muscle everybody. And it's like, what the fuck is going? And then a Nazi. It's just like, what? Like,
I'm happy
crazy.
fast. Yeah. That House of Gucci movie that's out right now, same fucking thing.
No, I haven't seen that.
I saw it, yeah.
The mother
good.
fucking hired a hitman to kill the father because he divorced her.
Yeah, killed his
true story.
His ex-husband.
Insane.
House of Gucci was good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was it on?
It's actually theater release. Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but I knew the story and I followed it while they were filming it. And dude, did you see it?
Yeah.
Pacino looks ridiculous.
Pacino did great. He's
good in it.
Yeah.
His outfit, I was like in his makeup, I was like, this guy looks fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, they were all good. Lady Gaga.
All right, I'll watch
Adam
it.
Driver.
I'll go see
it's
it.
definitely worth the watch. But yeah, I give the doc a high grade. I thought it was really good.
I thought it was really good too.
Yeah.
Me too, man. Who picked this one? You?
I forget. I think so.
I think it was you. How did you even hear about it?
I saw it trending on Twitter, and it's like, here's why everyone's talking about Von Dutcher, and I was like, oh,
Nice, good
that could
call,
be
Ed.
funny.
Yeah.
This was a good one. I was wondering, like, while I watched it, how did this get made? Like, who? I never knew any of this fucking story. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like they were going back and uncovering this story that people like knew about and were interested in.
No, out of nowhere.
Yeah, like how did that documentary get made? And they rounded up every character. Like there wasn't one person that wasn't included in this.
Well, yeah, it's like if you weren't included in it, it's because you're dead. Yeah. Like that's the only
R.I.P.
R.I.P. to Mark Rivas.
Probably could have got more celebrities to speak on it just because it was so big.
I wonder, like they got Rodman and Paris Hilton and who?
And like they really didn't have them say anything of, like I mean Paris had a few good quotes.
Yeah. And like she's someone who would know, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because she's still in that industry, and so I thought Rodman had like one scene. Yeah. They were probably like, "Fuck!" Like we went out, we paid Rodman whatever his nut was to be a part of this, and he gave us like 30 seconds of quotes.
And who took the ricochet shot? It was Rodman and someone else. From like, I love Dennis Rodman, but like you can't be having him wear this shit. I forgot who it was. It was him and someone else that they were like kind of ripping on for like it became uncool.
Because it was Rodman.
Yeah. But all right then, that's it.
Yeah.
Go watch it. It's on Hulu if you like it. The Curse of Von Dutch, A Brand to Die For is what it's called. But yeah, that's it for today. Thank you guys. We'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then.